Welcome to Ietsénhaienhs Uncut, Kahsennenhawe Sky-Deer. So I have a number of topics to cover today, so I guess we'll get right into it. So first and foremost, I would like to welcome Onoratoka Carly Marquis, who is the new Executive Director of the Mohawk Council of Kahnawake. So welcome to her. Looking forward to working with her in the next couple of months. For those that don't know, the Mohawk Council of Kahnawake is the direct supervisor, if you will, of the executive director, and more specifically, whoever will be the Grand Chief come July will be that direct supervisor working with her one-on-one. So, really looking forward to the work ahead and what she's going to bring to the organization. So congratulations to Onoratoka Marquis. Secondly, you might have seen some press releases on behalf of the Mohawk Council this week, the fact that we did launch an investigation into the asbestos containing material that, was kind of dispersed through the community, and the fact that, although the cleanup is ongoing, what we hope will come out of the investigation is, maybe where there was some lack in some policies and procedures and decision making that we hope, will not be repeated again in the future, and that it will help give us some clarity into that so that we can rectify that and ensure, this kind of thing doesn't become a regular occurrence. So it's not to necessarily lay blame or point fingers at individuals, but we really want to see, what went wrong and how this came to be. So I think it's an important piece moving forward. It's a positive thing that will help us mitigate and fix some things moving forward. And the last thing, in terms of a recent press release, you might have seen that there have been some changes now with regard to the border and border crossing and the requirement to get COVID tests. So we know that there are some people in the community who are concerned if, they're iron workers or individuals who have to cross the border. So if you do have any issues or concerns, you could contact myself or as well Dwayne Zachary, the Chief Peacekeeper, who has been working with the task force, and together we developed some communications through CBSA. And so if there's anything you would like to bring to our attention to have some issues resolved or mitigated, please don't hesitate to contact us. So some other portfolios that I've been working on. Let's see, governance, of course, is an ongoing project, and recently Gerald Ayage Alfred and Jessica Lazar had come to council and presented again the 8 recommendations that came out of the report on the community engagement with Kahnawake, and basically presented it in a way of how we can address the recommendations in the short term and what could be accomplished immediately, what could be done in the midterm, and I guess more so in the long term, because there were a lot of great ideas, I think, that came out of there. One that I think is relatively easy is, the fact that we're utilizing Ietsénhaienhs instead of chief. From what it was told to us, a lot of people don't like the fact that we utilize, that kind of terminology, which is actually even colonial in its inception and what it means. So if you know Ganyageha and breaking down those words, so Ietsénhaienhs meaning they who mind the fire, and same thing for, male and female, so Ietsénhaienhs, Ietsénhaienhs are people minding the fire. So it makes sense. I think, if we become comfortable in utilizing that terminology, I think it's a better representation instead of utilizing the former word of chief. So that was one thing, as well as how community meetings are structured. Before we were used to having our quarterly meetings, and it was the way we sat with the 12 of us in front, the community, it wasn't a very nice feel. It was kind of like adversarial. So when we did have a big community meeting last February in the midst of the train, or the rail blockade, we did meet at the Knights of Columbus, and we sat in a circle, and all the community was together in a big circle. And a lot of people commented about, how excellent that felt to be a part of, a meeting like that, and that we should consider doing that moving into the future. So I think that would be great. Of course, we know right now with the reality of COVID-19 and the pandemic, we probably won't be able to do that in the next little while, but we are going to have to find, creative ways of engaging with the people and meeting. I mean, this is just one platform, but again, it's very one-sided. I want to hear from the people. I want to hear what their concerns are. It's also good for people's mental health to be engaging, but so maybe we'll have to find some technology platforms in the interim to still have community meetings. So again, there were so many things that came out of that governance report, and as well, there's things that community members keep coming to me and saying, here's some other ideas that I have in terms of amendments if you're going to open up the election law. Like, there's a lot of concern right now about, I'll say, the vacancy, I guess, of the Grand Chief position, and what happens if multiple people run for it who are currently at the council table. If you're out, you're out. And the fact that, other Indigenous communities have the ability for people to run for both. So maybe you don't necessarily think that someone would be a good candidate for the Grand Chief position, but you like them being a regular Ietsénhaienhs. So therefore, you could cast your ballot that way, and they would have the opportunity to run for both, which I thought was an interesting idea that maybe it would be discussed in the community decision-making process when we open up the election law for amendments. And if people have other ideas or things that they think is important, it could be brought forward. But again, that will be like a midterm, probably into the new term of office that we would get to that work. So I guess that's all for now with the governance. But if you have any questions or concerns with anything that was addressed here today, or if you were thinking of anything, please reach out to me. I have two more initiatives that I would like to update. So one is that we do have a group of people who have been engaging on how to best reach Kahnawake youth. So there's a number of representatives from community organizations who have been meeting monthly now to look at what are the best practices, what has been working, what kind of platforms could we utilize to engage with youth. Most of them now are using things like TikTok and Snapchat, and I think Facebook might be a thing of the past for the youth, but and then figuring out which youth in the community have some influence, that people look up to them. They're kind of deemed leaders. How do we reach out to them? How do we get them to start, becoming interested and engaged on things that are going on in the community? Because we know, the youth are our future. They're a very important voice. So if we could find ways to engage with them more regularly on different things, I think is very important. So very happy to be a part of this youth engagement network. More to come. It's still in its infancy and early discussions of it, but I think it's a good thing for our community. And the last thing I'll talk about is out of the Dewaharada Zinigwarihoda, which is our language and culture network. We created a group called Sober AF. You might have seen some activities that we were hosting in the community in the last little while. So we are going to be having an event at the Kahnawake Youth Center on February 27th. It's very last minute because, again, with COVID, we could only have minimal participation. We have to mind, the number of people gathering and social distancing and all that. So we are going to be having a dance-a-thon. It is sponsored by KSCS. No alcohol. It's, like I said, a Sober AF event. And we're going to be giving half of the proceeds to the Ietsénhaienhs, which is the cancer support group here in the community. So very positive thing. People can come out and dance for an hour, have fun. And as well, there's a fundraising component to it. So if it's a success, hopefully we can do more events into the future. So just something positive to look forward to. I know a lot of people are, really tired of being cooped up in their homes, not being able to see their friends and family. So hopefully this is just one thing that we can do to, try to give people an activity, a fun activity. If you like to dance, you want to come out. So that's another thing that's in the works. So I won't take too much more of your time. Again, if you have any questions, comments with regard to anything that I discussed here today, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. So Nyawadziz is what the Hunsadade Uwa Winizrade and Tonya Wanage Nyawa.